In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said this to his disciples: Bhikkhus, all things have their origin in the mind. The mind goes before, the mind creates, and the mind governs. If one speaks and acts with a clouded mind, suffering follows like the wheel of a cart. If one speaks and acts with a clear mind, happiness follows like a shadow. Today, before this ancient theme of the mind, we seek to sit once more, especially before the wounded heart, how we stand. That is the story we wish to share. When we ask people, everyone says this: I am fine. Yet, if we look closely, this expression is often far from meaning one is truly fine. It is more often a sign that one no longer wishes to look within, or that one is already in too much pain to even muster the strength to gaze upon it. Instead of facing our wounds, we live busy lives. We bury ourselves in work, hide among crowds, and escape into smartphone screens. Or we drive ourselves relentlessly. What is the big deal about something like this? Others endure far worse. In these ways, we have learned various methods of closing our eyes to our wounds. Yet the Buddha pointed toward an entirely different path. Do not run away, but look upon them. To some, this instruction may sound cruel at first glance, to be told to keep peering into where it hurts. Might that not be precisely the thing that makes a wound fester? Such doubts may arise. Yet if we walk together to the end of this teaching today, you will come to understand how different its true meaning is. To gaze upon a wound is not to tear it open, but at last to create a comfortable distance between the wound and oneself. As it is said in the Dhammapada, the Buddha declared, Bhikkhus, if you harbor resentment in your heart, that resentment will never disappear. However, the moment you let go of resentment, right in that very place, it dissolves. The resentment spoken of here is not merely hatred directed at others. Every emotion tightly suppressed, deep within the heart, unresolved, shares the exact same nature as this resentment. Please imagine a flowing stream. Even if a single small twig or a single pebble blocks its path, the water pools for a moment before finding another way to flow. What would happen, however, if someone began building a large dam across that stream? At first, the water appears calm. The surface is still, and outwardly, all is peaceful. Yet behind the dam, the water is rising higher and higher. Suppressing our wounds is precisely like building this dam. We try not to feel sorrow. We swallow our anger, and we pretend our hurts never happened. Even while smiling on the outside, water is rising within. Psychology tells a similar story. Suppressed emotions do not vanish. They simply shift into other forms. Unresolved sorrow breaks out as unaccountable irritation, and undigested hurt is often poured out in twisted ways upon those closest to us. If we look closely at the relationships between spouses or between parents and children, we see that many conflicts begin from this misdirected stream of water. Old wounds, having nothing to do with the person before us, burst forth in the wrong place. Therefore, suppression is not peace, but merely delay. It is not the elimination of suffering, but merely its postponement. And postponed suffering invariably gathers interest. When it finally erupts, it is far greater than at first, and it bursts forth in the most unexpected directions. This is why the Buddha taught us never to harbor resentment, nor any suppressed heart of the same kind. deep within our minds, not harboring it, does not mean pretending it is not there. It means quite the opposite, to look at it just as it is in this very moment, and let it flow away. In the Samyukta Agama, the Buddha spoke these words to the bhikkhusu. Bhikkhus, when the body is struck by an arrow, it is natural to feel pain, yet startled by that pain, to shoot a second arrow into one's own heart belongs to the foolish. The wise person stops with a single arrow. The Buddha explained further, as we live our lives, every one of us is struck by unavoidable arrows. The parting from a loved one, the betrayal of someone we trusted, illness of the body, failure in our work. This is the first arrow. No one can avoid this arrow. Not the Buddha, not the saints, not even monks who have practiced their whole lives can escape this arrow. The problem lies in what follows. In the spot where the first arrow struck, we shoot yet another arrow ourselves. Why does something like this only happen to me? What did I do wrong to deserve this? Who could ever love someone like me? These thoughts are the second arrow, and this second arrow causes us to suffer far more deeply and for far longer than the first arrow. Here, the practice of gazing upon appears. This awareness, called Sati in Pali, is simply put, the power to observe without judgment. When sorrow arises, instead of pushing it away with the thought, I must not be sad, we quietly acknowledge it thus. Ah, there is sorrow within me right now. This small difference creates an immense difference in the end. To use a metaphor, suppose an uninvited guest visits your home. If you try to force that guest out, a scuffle breaks out at the door, and the disturbance grows. Yet if you simply look at the guest, saying, "Ah, a guest has arrived," gaze upon them calmly and make room. Strangely enough, that guest does not linger long and departs of their own accord. Emotions are no different. The more we try to push them away, the harder they dig in their heels at the door. Yet if we look upon them just as they are, emotions finish their work and pass by of their own accord. What is important here is the fact that I am sad and there is sadness within me are by no means the same thing. The former means becoming sadness itself, while the latter means standing in the place that observes sadness. This place of observation, this is precisely the observer's seat. Just as the depths of the ocean are always tranquil, no matter how violent the waves, within us there is a tranquil place, untouched by any wave of emotion. Practice is nothing other than the training of returning to that very place. In the Sutra of 42 chapters, the Buddha spoke thus to his disciples. Bhikkhus, when an unseemly face approaches a clear mirror, even though the mirror does nothing, that face naturally steps back in alarm. A person's anger is just like this. If you do not match it with a response, that anger subsides of its own accord. Let us unpack this metaphor a little further. A certain monk was approached by a man who poured forth curses and harsh words. Without a single word of reply, the monk simply listened quietly. When the man grew tired and turned to leave, the monk asked him, if someone gives a gift to another person, and that person does not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The man replied, naturally it belongs to me. The monk smiled and said, today, the anger you offered me, I did not accept, so it remains your own. This story gives us a very realistic insight. When someone hurls hurtful words at us, accepting them just as they are, and carving them deep into our hearts, is actually our own choice. Of course, this does not mean that being hurt is our own fault. We hope you harbor no such misunderstanding. The one who inflicted the wound certainly bears their own share. However, after receiving that wound, how we treat it from then on is now our own responsibility. If we think of family relationships, we can see how practical this insight is. Words dropped carelessly by parents are often carried by children in their hearts for decades after. Conversely, some people hear similar words, let them pass lightly, and live their lives. This difference is not because the weight of the words differs. It is because the place in the heart that receives and gazes upon those words is different. The concept known in psychology as detachment or spatial distance is no different from this. Even in the face of the same event, one who can maintain a proper distance between that event and oneself is far less shaken. To maintain distance does not mean to turn away. It means to step back far enough to be able to look straight ahead. That is true distancing. In the Sutta Nipata, the Buddha urged a traveler on the path, practitioner, like a lion unafraid of sounds, like the wind not caught in a net, like a lotus unsoiled by muddy water. Go alone, like the horn of a rhinoceros. This passage is often misunderstood as a command to endure loneliness, yet its meaning is somewhat different. Going alone here does not mean avoiding everyone, but rather that when it comes to the affairs of one's own heart, one must know how to confront them by oneself. Now, we shall share specific practices that we can begin to try from today. The first is naming along with the breath. When the heart hurts, take one deep breath in, and as you exhale, say inwardly, "Right now, I am feeling hurt. Right now, I am feeling angry." The moment you attach a name, strangely enough, a very small gap opens up between the emotion and yourself. That gap is precisely the initial place where you can avoid being swept away by the emotion. The second is descending into bodily sensations. Thoughts chase one another in endless tales and continually lead us into the past and future. Why did I act like that back then? Or, what if it happens again? They whisper. At such times, instead of following the thoughts, we shift our attention to the body. Is the chest tight? Is the throat choked? Are the shoulders heavy? Simply feel the bodily sensations quietly. Thoughts lead us far away, while bodily sensations are always here and now. The third is the practice of being together without resisting. Just as you would soothe a crying child, speak thus to the wounded heart within you. It hurt a great deal, didn't it? It is all right, I am here. This connects directly to loving-kindness meditation. We often think of loving-kindness as something bestowed only upon others. Yet the very first being that needs to receive loving-kindness is none other than our own wounded self. When a mother sees her child fall and scrape a knee, between saying, "Stop crying right now, what is there to hurt about?" and saying, "It hurt a lot, didn't it? Mommy will make it better," which of the two heals the child's heart more quickly? We may have been treating ourselves all this time, just like that first mother. Starting today, we invite you to treat yourself like that second mother. These three practices, naming, descending into the body, and being together, are not separate, but flow naturally within a single stream. It is all right to feel clumsy at first. Practice, by its very nature, begins with clumsy steps. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, the layman Vimalakirti says, Because sentient beings are ill, I too am ill. When the illness of sentient beings is cured, then my illness will also be cured. The illness of a bodhisattva arises from great compassion. What these words convey to us is a truly astonishing insight. Wounds and pain can sometimes become the deepest seeds of compassion. One who has never felt pain once can scarcely comprehend the pain of others entirely. Yet one who has passed through deep wounds sees someone undergoing a similar pain, and the heart recognizes it beforehand without a word. The change that occurs when we finally begin to look upon the wounds we have suppressed is precisely this. Wounds are no longer shameful things to be hidden and concealed, but become the power to understand another. Look around you. A person who has passed through the deep pain of divorce takes the hand of a neighbor facing divorce with the utmost warmth. A person who has suffered from a major illness extends the most precise comfort to one undergoing treatment. This is the moment when a wound becomes a teacher. Of course, this must not lead to the hasty conclusion. Therefore, be grateful for being wounded. Wounds still hurt. There is no need to romanticize that pain. Yet when one does not avoid that pain and looks upon it to the very end, something different can sprout. Right in that place. That is what we wish to express. This connects with the Buddhist teaching of impermanence, that all things are not fixed. The intense pain of the present does not remain in this place forever. Just as river water flows on, emotions, wounds, and time flow together. When we do not block that flow, but gaze upon it and let it pass, wounds transform from hardened lumps into flowing wisdom. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha spoke thus: Bhikkhus, if you cannot find one better than yourself or an equal, to walk alongside, rather advance resolutely alone. It is better to walk alone than to keep company with a fool. Adapted to today's theme, these words may be expressed thus. Rather than struggling to continue sharing emotions with someone who continually tears open your wounded feelings or treats them lightly, saying, "What's the big deal over something like that?" Reader, it is far more beneficial to choose a moment of solitude for a while and observe your own heart by yourself. We recommend trying this in daily life. When anger flares up, instead of immediately pouring out words, take 3 slow breaths and ask inwardly, what kind of emotion might be hidden beneath this anger right now? It could be a sense of hurt, a feeling of sorrow, or perhaps fear. On the way home from work, or before falling asleep, take just 5 minutes of the day to recall the moment that weighed most heavily on your mind. Then attach a name to that emotion and gaze upon it quietly. You felt deeply hurt today, didn't you? When these short 5 minutes accumulate, our hearts no longer fear emotions. Even when emotions arrive, we can meet them calmly, without panic, saying, "Ah, you have arrived." In the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, the Buddha spoke these final words to Ananda. Ananda, all conditioned things are impermanent. Such is the law of arising and passing away. When arising and passing away cease, the tranquility is true happiness. If the story we shared today were to be summarized in a single sentence, it would be this: if you suppress a wound, it rises like water trapped behind a dam. But if you gaze upon a wound quietly, it will eventually flow away without fail. Leaving you with today's koan, we wish to conclude this discourse. In this very moment, If there is an emotion within your heart that remains quietly huddled, without yet having been looked upon, tonight before falling asleep, even if just for a single time, whisper thus, toward that emotion, "It is all right. I will look after you now. Namo Amitabha. Namo Avalokiteshvara. The universe conspires to help you."